ECS 203 Summary of Learning by Zane. I thought learning was a strict and rigid experience that was accomplished in the classroom. I always assumed that the curriculum was quite restrictive to teachers and was something that we just had to get through as a class. I had always been a curious learner throughout my entire life. Beginning as a young child, I often enjoyed learning through the exploration of my surroundings, through doing things, and through play. However, looking back, it didn't really occur to me that I was learning when I was participating in these activities. Throughout this course, I have learned new perspectives and understandings about learning, curriculum, and how students are to be taught. Some ways in which I view curriculum and pedagogy have changed throughout my time studying at the University of Regina and within this class, while others have stayed the same. This is due in part to changes in my own thinking and understanding, and partly because I have been able to affirm my understandings through new knowledge. One of these changes is my understanding of how different subjects are taught. I always assumed that there were creative subjects like art and there were more practical subjects like math. This was frustrating for me because I didn't think of myself as a very creative person, but I also struggled to understand the practical subjects. This way of thinking led me to believe that school was just something I needed to do, a hoop I had to jump through to do the things I actually enjoyed. It wasn't until high school when I took a history class that I began questioning this way of thinking. I was engaged in the course content, and the teacher assessed us in ways that allowed us to research and discuss things of interest. Unfortunately, this was only one class, so the sample size was too small to really get me to question my understanding. When I read about the different curriculum theories and ideologies, I began to think back to my experience in this history class and wonder if it was the subject that I enjoyed or that my teacher approached learning using curriculum as a process. The reading that helped me fully understand that it isn't about the subject and its content, but rather how it's taught, was Poyer's article teaching mathematics and the Inuit community. It is incorrect to say that the way the Inuit people learn math is invalid simply because it is less applicable to our society. This realization helped me to understand that there aren't creative and practical subjects, but rather creative and practical approaches to these subjects. The idea of lesson planning and curriculum has always been intimidating to me since I decided that I wanted to become an educator. It almost seemed like an impossible mountain of a task, and I had no idea how to approach it. Thankfully, I was able to gain some perspective throughout my time in this class. I plan to approach the mandated curriculum as a starting point rather than a step-by-step guide. I now know that I am able to creatively adjust how my class will be taught and how the required content will be delivered, depending on the learning styles, interests, and backgrounds of my students. I plan to utilize my new understanding of the curriculum to help engage my students so that they don't feel how I felt about how different subjects are taught. I aim to create a classroom where students feel that they are able to admit when they don't understand and ask for clarification so that we can find different ways to learn together. I want my students to think critically about what they are being asked to learn, and I plan on achieving this by being open with them about the curriculum. One moment of cognitive dissonance that I experienced within this class was at the start of the semester when we talked about the different definitions of curriculum. More specifically, the written, hidden, and null curriculum. This, along with the recurring quote from Sensoy and D'Angelo stating, "No text is neutral, every text represents a particular perspective," left me feeling quite naive. It had never crossed my mind that there would be any ulterior motive that the government would try to achieve through their curriculum, besides simply educating people. This forced me to think about the power I will have as a teacher, and the importance for me to consider the perception of what I am teaching within my class. It also highlighted for me the importance for teachers, students, and their families to be concerned with and aware of all aspects of the curriculum being taught. Reflecting on my learning throughout ECS 203, I can clearly identify personal ways of thinking that have changed due to the new knowledge that I have gained. I also feel that I have a deeper understanding of beliefs I carried with me into the class due to having new knowledge to back them up.